Hello, everybody. Tracy, Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president at JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures podcast, powered by JDog and Vet TV. Our podcast gives veterans, mil spouses, active military members, and military family members a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and they share with me a tactical treasure that has helped them along the way in their military career, business, or life. Today, I am very excited to have with me Sergeant Major Jack Tilley, who served as a 12th Sergeant Major of the Army from June 2000 to January 2004. A veteran of every major war since and including Vietnam, Sergeant Major Tilley held a variety of important leadership positions throughout his 36 career, including tank commander, section leader, drill sergeant, platoon sergeant, senior instructor, operations sergeant, first sergeant, and command sergeant major. As Sergeant Major of the Army, SMA Tilley served as the Army Chief of Staff's personal advisor on all listed related matters, particularly in areas affecting soldier training and quality of life. Sergeant Major Tilley continues his advocacy for all veterans, military service members, and their families as co-founder of the American Freedom Foundation and host of Your Next Mission Video podcast. Sir, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited to speak with you, and thank you for your many years of service to our country.
Well, thank you so much. When you was reading that bio, I was trying to fall asleep here. It's so long.
Wow, it's an outstanding bio. Wow, what an amazing career you've had in the Army. What initially led you and inspired you to join the Army?
Dumb luck.
Okay.
I wasn't the best kid in the world. I was probably a little rough on the edges. I graduated from school, and I remember sitting on a beach, and somebody said, "What are you going to do with your life?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "You want to go to college?" And I said, "Guys like me don't necessarily go to college." And he said, the next guy said, "You want to join the military, join the Army?" And I was only 17. I said, "Sure, why not? I don't care." So I went basic AIT jump school, and I was in war, fighting a war 6 months later. So that was.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
In fact, I tell people I went from 18 to 55 real quick. So it changed.
Right. Wow. Baptism by fire. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So you've had such a long career, 36 years. Wow. So is there a particular aspect or moment from your service that had an impact on you or stood out to you?
All of them are important.
Sure. Right.
I think, of course, being a sergeant major of the Army, that's a senior enlisted non-commissioned officer for about 1.3 million people. And that was certainly an important job. And I was able to work on, pay raises and housing and all this other stuff. But I think probably one of the most important things, I was overran when I was in Vietnam, 20 wounded and 7 killed. And I think probably when I look back on the things that really had a tremendous effect on my life is that was probably one of the biggest ones, because, anybody that served in the military, you come back scarred. You come back with wounds that'll never heal. Look okay, but just a lot of stuff out there. That's probably one of the most challenging things in my life I think I had to go through. Other than being married, I've been married a long time, and I know who's in charge about that. So that's good.
Oh yeah. That's marriage, job in itself, right?
Well, it's the key to success. Is she's always.
It is.
I'm always wrong. I got that. I got it down pat. There's nothing I can do.
You're a good husband already, I could tell.
Well, my wife doesn't say that all the time. Sometimes it's a little slow. But, the other thing I'd tell you, too, when you talk about sacrifices, most people in our country have no earthly idea what the military does.
Right.
I had 16 trips in Afghanistan, 3 in Iraq. Like I said, fighting in the streets of Saigon when I was a young kid, 18, in the Pentagon for 9/11. Like I told you, 20 wounded and 7 killed. So it's a shame that we don't have more shows like yourself, more podcasts like yourself that people get out and really learn about the military. I've been to places that literally about every foot and a half would step over a body. So I've seen some pretty nasty stuff in my life.
Sure. So with thinking about that, how was your transition experience getting out of Army And what was it like after retiring after 36 years? That's a long part of your life that you spent in the Army, and you went in so young.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I,
no,
was it challenging?
well, it was challenging. But I want to say I'm a self-motivated person. I believe in life, believe in God, and I'm pretty motivated most of the time. When I initially got out, I really went back to the Army and said, "Hey, look, let me help you market the Army, tell people about the Army, things they're doing." And that door was really closed. They thanks a lot for your help, but we just don't need you. And I said, "Okay."
Okay.
So what I did, well, initially I sort of sit down a little bit and didn't do a whole lot. And then all of a sudden I just threw myself into work. I think the problem we have, I don't know if you know it or not, since 2001 to date, we've had 120,000 veterans commit suicide. And,
Yeah.
and I think one of the problems that we have is that they try to find their tribe. They try to find out, where they fit it in. And let's be honest about one thing. For 36 years, you told me my job was to kill people. I mean, that's the bottom line. And I'm a combat arms guy, and I understand my mission. There's no second best in the military. Either you win or you lose, and if you lose with your life. So transition for me was a little difficult. I'm not sure I ever really transitioned. I've been real lucky. I've opened up. I've owned 3 companies. I have my own company now. I started with Ted Hacker, the American Freedom Foundation. We've been able to give away around $13 million, I think it is, through scholarships and other things.
Oh, wow.
And we started a Your Next Mission podcast, just like yours, where the veterans and service members, officers, non-commissioned officers, and family members, and anybody that has something to offer the veterans come on the show and talk about stuff. But I think transition is something different for every person. And they've got to, I think the key to success is get out and start talking to people. Make sure you don't hold that stuff in and don't talk to people and get out there and start working and showing people what you have to offer.
Right. Hello, viewers and listeners. I would like to introduce you to the JDog Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the prevention of veteran suicide and the healing of veterans' mental health. 100% of all proceeds received by the JDog Foundation goes directly to several foundations focused on the mission of saving veterans' lives. Each partner is hand-selected by our executive director, Jerry Flanagan, with input from the assistant director, Tracy Flanagan, and the JDog Foundation board members. Our foundation's motto: saving lives, one veteran at a time. Go to jdogfoundation.org to take a look at everything that we're doing there and the organizations that we're partnered with. You can also donate, and there's also a support line if you're in need of help. Thanks. Check us out, jdogfoundation.org. So could you tell us a little bit more about the American Freedom Foundation, how it first came to be, and I would love to hear more about the work that you're doing there.
Well, the American Freedom Foundation, the last 2 years, 3 years I was in the service, I took, during Christmas, I'd take entertainers to entertain soldiers and service members over in Iraq and different places in the Middle East. And I did it for a couple of years. And I got to be good friends with Ted Hacker. He was a manager at Nashville. He managed the Oak Ridge Boys and a bunch of different artists for 30 plus years. And we got to be pretty good friends. And so when I was getting ready to retire, in fact, I was talking to him about when I was getting ready to retire, I called him up and said, I still want to serve. I still want to do something. Let's put on a concert, because we took the entertainers, different groups of people. And so we started, we got together. We've been really good friends here for about 20 years. And so we got together. We started a foundation, started doing shows. We did concerts for 10 years. And that's where we gave all the money away right there. And when COVID hit, it was really a struggle. We did a couple of webinars, and then somebody come up one day and says, "Hey, why don't we do a podcast?" And I said, "Oh, wow, what's that?" And so I said, "Sure, I'm in. I'll do a podcast." And to date, I did 130 podcasts, video podcasts, and we're getting a pretty good reach, I think, with our podcast. And not just the show itself, but social media. We just checked, it had 8.6 million people. that's checked us out
Oh,
on the
wow.
show. So we're getting pretty big, and a lot of things are going on. We want to grow it, but again, our focus is how do we help our veteran community with any needs that they need, whatever it may be.
Right. So if people wanted to get involved with the American Freedom Foundation and what you're doing, how would they go about supporting the mission? Would they donate, or is there a website that they could go to and find out more?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's two ways you could. Well, there's a lot of ways you could do it, but I'll give you a couple of ways here, real quick. You can
Okay.
call. You can call or text me at 844-424-1134, and that's a text that we have somebody monitoring that text. They send me their messages, or go to SMA Tilley, SMA Tilley, Tilley at yournextmission.org. Send me a message. I'd also like to hear
Okay.
if there's something they want to put on the show that maybe we haven't had on the show. So those two ways are really good ways. And donating, if you go to the AmericanFreedomFoundation.org, you can see there's a donate button there if you want to donate. But, there's 17 million veterans out there, and some are
Right.
struggling. So we want to try to help them in any way that we can help.
Right. Right. So, yeah. So our podcast, we're both on Reese Across America Radio.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's your podcast is really exciting. So you kind of started around the same time I did. You were it started in April of 2021, right?
I don't know if it's April 2020. It may have been that date. I'm not sure. We've been doing it about 3 years
Yeah.
now. So it's probably about that date,
Yeah.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started in July the same year.
Yeah.
So been doing it about as long as you have it. It is very, I know it's very exciting to talk to veterans, like yourself and mil spouses, and allow them a platform to tell their story. So what are some of the issues? Do you get into issues with the Next Mission podcast?
Oh, absolutely.
Or is
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, one of the one I just brought up was suicide prevention. September was mental illness or suicide prevention month, and
Yes,
really
yes.
talked about the fact again since 2001, 120,000. The other one, we have somebody coming on the show. We from the criminal justice system. Now, I don't know if I got the numbers right, but I think I heard him correctly. He said about 25% of the people that are incarcerated in our country are veterans, which equates to about 180,000 people. The other thing that, again, somebody
It's
asked me to
terrible.
speak at an event the other day, breast cancer, or cancer, just cancer. Last year in the VA, 40,000 veterans went to the VA for cancer. And breast cancer among men is on the rise. Over 2,000 men last year had breast cancer. And I don't know what it's caused
Wow.
from, but a lot of people are talking about burn pits and stuff like that. So we talk about
Sure.
a series of things
Right.
that help the veteran community. I gotta say this one. I got a note from a young man the other day that was going to commit suicide, and he said,
Oh,
I
wow.
almost cry when I say this, but he talked about it. He say, the way it started was I should have got it out and read it, but the way it started says, "Hey, I watch your show every week, and it's really helped me each week. I pick something up that helps me. I'd started giving things away." But my wife knew I was going to commit suicide, and so she would never leave me alone. And so he said that he'd never leave alone. He'd always leave one or two of the children. He had two kids, leave them, either one or both of them with him. And he said after I don't know how long, he said I finally worked myself out of a hole, and I feel okay now. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. If you
Yeah,
yeah.
it's amazing. You never know who you're going to reach,
Oh no.
and who's going to see
Yeah,
this.
even if you can help one person,
Right. Just one.
that's what you want to do. And so
It's huge.
there's 17 million veterans out there. We're all part of a family. We need to make sure that we do all we can to help them.
Right. Right. Well said. Well said. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast, where we are currently having a wonderful conversation with Sergeant Major Jack Tilley, who served for 36 years in the Army, and he also served from June 2000 to January 2004 as the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army. He is now the co-founder of the American Freedom Foundation and host of Your Next Mission video podcast, which was launched on April 13th, 2021, to provide a resource to help veterans and families through their transition from military to civilian life, as well as endeavoring to educate America about the military. The video podcast series releases a new episode once a week and features discussions from military and community leaders who offer guidance, insight, and support opportunities for veterans transitioning from military to civilian life, and aims to help turn their military experience into a tactical advantage in the civilian world. Your Next Mission podcast can be found at yournextmission.org, and episodes are streaming on your favorite podcast platforms as well as YouTube. Now back to the podcast. Let's dive into your tactical treasure. What would you like to share with us today? I'm really interested to hear.
Well, I think probably the one thing I'd like to share with you is just probably what I just said. Don't think that you're alone. Make sure that you understand there's always somebody there that will help you in some way. A lot of veterans, sometimes when they get out, they really struggle about fitting back into society and how to turn certain things off. And they go sit on the couch and they get sort of depressed. And so hopefully this is the right thing, tactical, but it's my treasure anyway. But it's just know you're not alone. That there's people out there that want to help you and love you, and they want to do all we can to make sure that you have a life, a fulfilling life for all of us, not just the service members, but also the families. It's so important for us to work and help each other out.
True. Yeah, that's really special. Great advice. Any other little nuggets that you might say to our transitioning veterans, how they can get back on their feet again, trying to figure out what that next step is in their life after military service?
Yeah, well, I think there's a whole list of them. The first thing most veterans have a problem with is when do they start their transition. They should start that transition as far out as they can because, we're not, you say 20 years or 4 years in the service. I always tell them to start at least 2 years out if you're going to retire from the military. But you ought to start 2 years out. Pay all your bills off. Know where you want to live. Make sure you have a resume. Start networking as early as you can. Anybody nowadays, I don't think they give you many business cards and tap phones or something like that. But
right, yeah.
But make sure you get all the contacts that you have. But start floating that resume as quickly as you can. Make sure you have 2 resumes, one military resume and one civilian resume. And remember, when you're talking to somebody that has not served in the military, and when you start using military jargon, it confuses them. They're not sure what it is. Make sure you, Also have a sponsor, have a mentor, somebody you can reach out to and talk to about what the issues are. Save, I always like, it's hard for people to do that, but save 6 months, 6 months salary, save as much money as you can to make sure you're prepared to get out. And probably the last thing, that's probably a lot, but the last thing I'll tell you,
it's great.
If you're married, make sure your wife or your spouse is involved in the entire process. Don't think that you're transitioning by yourself. I got to tell you a story. When I got out of the service, I told my wife, I said, hey, look, Lori, I was the senior enlisted non-commissioned officer for 1.3 million people. I'm going to be a little bothered by that. I said, 36 years of service. And she didn't skip a beat. She looked at me and said, yeah, I was a senior spouse in the military for 1.3 million people. I'm going to be a little stressed while I'm getting out of service. So the spouse is a tremendous backstop. I mean, you got to make sure you talk to each other. Don't allow yourself to get frustrated. So those are a few nitpicks, a few things that I think people can probably really think about.
Jack, it's very interesting how you say, talking about transition, I imagine our mil spouses kind of transition as well, especially if they've been married to their service member for his entire service. I imagine that must be a little bit difficult as well, because when they get out, I'm sure that, as you're both sort of transitioning and going back to civilian life, they kind of don't have that military community that they're used to having. And I'm sure that that must be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, no, it is. In fact, a lot of people, when they get out of service, if they can now, retire, buy a military installation for exactly what you're talking about. We didn't do that when we moved. We moved down where our grandkids were, our grandbabies were. But yeah, no, it's true. But and then the other thing I think they do too, and I tried to do it with Gloria, was about 6 months before I got out of the service. 6 months before I wanted her to move as much as you could down to where we was going to retire at. So yeah, it's tough for both of them. In fact, if you think about it, the military spouse have sort of put their careers off to the side to follow me around. And so I told Gloria for the next, as long as I can live anyway, for the rest of my life, I'll do exactly what you want to do. And that's what I've been doing anyway.
Oh, wow. That's great. That's great. Well, this has been amazing conversation speaking with you today, sir. And again, thank you for, your service. And I think it's awesome what you're doing in the veteran community, still serving and still giving back. It's just, you're doing amazing things. It's just been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for sharing everything. I have really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you for what you're doing. I mean, you're making a difference together. We can make a difference. All of us, just one team, one fight. That's what I always say. So
that's right.
Thanks for allowing me to be on your show.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And they say it takes a village, right?
Absolutely.
So, totally. Well, thanks so much, sir. Take care. Bye-bye.
God bless.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast. We have just finished an amazing conversation with Sergeant Major Jack Tilley, who served for 36 years in the Army, and he also served from June 2000 to January 2004 as the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army. He is now the co-founder of the American Freedom Foundation and host of Your Next Mission video podcast, which was launched on April 13th, 2021, to provide a resource to help veterans and families through their transition from military to civilian life, as well as endeavoring to educate America about the military. The video podcast series releases a new episode once a week and features discussions from military and community leaders who offer guidance, insight, and support opportunities for veterans transitioning from military to civilian life, and aims to help turn their military experience into a tactical advantage in the civilian world. Your Next Mission podcast can be found at yournextmission.org, and episodes are streaming on your favorite podcast platforms as well as YouTube. Again, thanks for tuning in, and don't forget you can find Tactical Treasures Podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms as well as Vet TV. We are now airing on Reach Across America Radio on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, and if you missed that, be sure to join us Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern for an encore. You can also find Reach Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, the TuneIn app. Again, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again on another Tactical Treasures Podcast. Bye-bye now.